Good afternoon, Rotary. Welcome to another Friday. Here we are on Friday, March the 24th. That means that Ramadan started yesterday with the sighting of the crescent moon over Mecca, which starts the month of fasting and celebration around the world for Muslims. Today is also World Tuberculosis Day, National Cocktail Day, National Cheese Steak Day, and International Day for Achievers. So if you're a high achiever, you can feel in good company today. This week we also welcome a high achiever of our own community, Jerome Grelkel, who's going to be sharing some information and stories with us from the Flint Neighborhood Oral History Project. But before we get to that, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
As Rotarians, we try to live by the four way test of the things we think, say, or do.
All uncertain, will fulfill the goodwill of our friendships, will be beneficial to all concerned.
Today we have an inspirational message from Bobby McConnell.
The Jedi mind trick on the way up said, "Please be seated." So please be seated. So this is my thoughts on the nature of happiness. So happiness is the goal of all of our efforts in life. It is therefore important to find out exactly where happiness is located. We tend to believe that the joy we experience lies in the objects that our sense organs pursue. For example, beautiful music for our ears, soothing creams for our skin, beautiful shapes for our eyes, and so on. As we pursue this belief, we constantly try to get more of the objects that our sense organs crave. Many succeed in gathering a large amount of things, like a foolish guy with 83 cars, for example. But we eventually find out that our happiness is not any greater than before. It did not grow in proportion to the objects that we gather around us. Wealth is by no means a measure of happiness, since joy is not found in these objects. If it were contained in those objects, each would provide the same amount of joy to all of those who come in contact with it. But we know this is not the case. A man smoking a cigar, for example, after a satisfying meal is overwhelmed with that pleasure that crowns his feast. However, the person sitting 2 tables away is going through agony because her evening is spoiled by the pungent fumes that she loathes. If joy is not in these objects, then where is it located exactly? This leads us to the fundamental question: where is happiness? These questions were the basis of many ancient masters who made investigations into the human psyche. They discovered that happiness is a state of mind. When the mind is agitated, we feel sorrow and anxiety. When the mind is tranquil, we feel joy. Thus, happiness is measured by the tranquility of our mind. Tranquility may come through contact with objects, but that tranquility turns out to be only temporary. Lasting satisfaction comes from the mind which has become quiet because its desire has been fulfilled. We all run after the material world in vain. The spiritual leaders over ages have asserted that the human being has the unique capacity to quiet the mind and thus learn to enjoy real tranquility without having to depend helplessly upon objects and things. Thus, I wish that we all discover the true happiness that lies within us.
With that, here's the true happiness, and may you truly enjoy your life. Welcome back, Rotarians. Enjoy your lunch, we're just going to get moving with the program portion of our meeting. I want to start off with a few announcements. So one is that there's a reminder, today is the last day to offer your suggestions to the philanthropy committee about how we might grant up to $7,000 total to a local nonprofit organization that might serve children or education or arts and culture. So if you have not yet submitted your ideas, please be sure to give those to Ellen by today. You can email it to her if you haven't yet had that opportunity. Also want to remind everybody of a service opportunity that Jim Richardson shared with us last week. So if you are itching to be outside in nice spring weather, we have an opportunity on May 20th. That's going to be assisting with the Garden Starter packet for edible Flint, and there's a variety of different time options that morning. You don't have to commit the entire day, but your weekly emails this week had more details about that. If we are able to help, then please reach out to Jim Richardson. And then I'm looking at the back table over there and just remembering when Lenore County used to frequent the back table and wanted to share with.
No, you didn't frequent.
This was her table. Yeah. So in honor of Rowdy Crowdy and her legacy at the back table, I wanted to share with everybody, there's going to be a community kind of celebration in honor of Lenore's birthday. It's going to occur at Mock Community College's campus this upcoming Thursday from noon to 2. It's going to be at the Lenore County Family Life Center, which of course was completely renovated and named for Lenore. So if you haven't been to that facility yet, this is a great opportunity. My understanding is that they're also going to stuff you silly with dessert. There's ice cream and cupcakes. And so if you wanted to celebrate Lenore's birthday in style and look forward as long as she could, please feel free to stop by this coming Thursday.
And from the back table, a coat, Eleanor.
So Lenore. Next Thursday, we are between these two events really playing with our alternate fifth Friday sort of arrangement. So instead of having a fifth Friday evening on Friday next week, we are going to be meeting Thursday. So you got the opportunity from noon to 2 to celebrate Lenore's birthday. And then we're going to have kind of a happy hour informal gathering at Market Tap at 5 p.m. So if you'd like to join us at 5 o'clock next Thursday, it's going to be a chance to kind of connect with folks informally, unwind. And Joe Martin was kind enough, I think, to wrangle us some free pizza out of the deal too. So if you're available, please come on. We'd love to have you out at Market Tap next Thursday. And the cool opportunities keep coming. So this is the first announcement of a social gathering. We have been trying this year to be able to engage more with each other outside of these regular weekly meetings. And so we had a goal this year of having at least one social gathering a quarter. Back in December, we did go out to the Flint Firebirds game together. This next upcoming opportunity is going to be next month on April 20th, which is also a Thursday. And so we're going to kind of ride on the coattails of the Flint Institute of Arts. They're having a drinks with the director, either mocktails or cocktails that are all focused around this Dan Chinuli glass piece. And so you get to have kind of art-inspired cocktail or mocktail, and then get to hang around and interact with Tracy Black, the director of the Flint Institute of Arts, and she'll actually give a talk telling more about this piece of artwork. So it's a chance to gather, have a little fun, and learn something too. So please put on your calendar if you're available. We'd love to have you there. It's only an hour long, but it's a good opportunity to check in with each other and have some fun. All right, so in honor of March as Women's History Month, we've been doing a different feature each week. So we've talked about women in Rotary. We've talked about women in a variety of different things. This time we're going to focus on women in political life. And so I didn't know the answer to this question. This was and you will knock my socks off. If anybody in the audience here knows who was the first woman to run for Congress.
Jeanette Rankin.
Oh, save that answer. That's going to be coming up next. What if I put the picture here? Anybody recognize this thing? What if I say Seneca Falls Convention? Close. This is Elizabeth Cady Stanton. She was one of the main organizers of the Seneca Falls Convention, and she was the first woman to ever run for Congress. And that was back in 1848. She was running for Congress at a time when she was not permitted to vote. So who was the first woman elected to Congress? And this is where, Fred, I think you get bonus points, because yes, Jeanette Rankin was the first woman elected to Congress, and that was in 1916. Again, before women had the right to vote nationally. George said, Fred, did you vote for her? All right, so the question here, so what year was women's right to vote recognized with the ratification of the 19th Amendment? It was in 1920. Yeah. So my grandmother was 11 years old and women had the right to vote in this country. I remember that. Okay. All right, two more. This one's maybe a little more current. So who was Michigan's first woman governor? Granholm, that's right. And even more recently, who was Flint's first woman mayor? Karen Weaver. Yes. So there we go. All right, let's our women in political life little history quiz. So before we go on to some of the other raffle and whatnot birthday celebrations today, I did want to take a moment and acknowledge with the club that we have a Rotarian who is now a member of the District 6360 to 6330 Polio Plus Society. So that means this society was just formed in 2023, specifically to recognize Rotarians that commit to polio eradication efforts with an annual minimum contribution of $100. And to do that until the World Health Organization declares the world polio free. And so today it's my pleasure to recognize the first person from our club to achieve this distinction, and that is Michael Chafee, our district governor. Congratulations to Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So if there's anybody else who is so moved and would be interested in joining the 6360, saying the wrong thing out of that one, 6330, district, more information about how to become part of the Polio Plus Society is available on the district website. And I'm sure Mike would also be more than happy to let you know about that. Okay. So with that, are there any other announcements from the floor? Yes.
Oh, people can hear. I needed to give Elizabeth a heads up on this when I forgot to do so, but I had the privilege of attending the, oh goodness, I'm gonna mess up the number, 28th Annual Children's Champion Awards breakfast yesterday with 1,000 of my closest and dearest friends. But at that time, one of our very own Rotarians was recognized with the Lifetime Achievement Award. So please help me in recognizing Duncan Beagle for his
Can't think of a more fitting awardee, and congratulations to you, Duncan. Any other announcements from the floor? All right, then we'll move on to any health and welfare announcements. I heard that Jerry Hill was a little under the weather, so he sends his regrets. He couldn't be here today, but he's got a good thought or wish to send Jerry's way. If he's doing there. Any other health and welfare? Okay, well, I do believe we do have some guests to be welcome today, so we did bring a guest. Please feel free to stand up with them and introduce them.
So I brought with me today Ellen Yoke, who is the new election director for Genesee County.
I brought Kathy Gentry, who is the chief operating officer of Sloan Museum, along with Ontario.
Wonderful to have you both here. Welcome, and hope you'll come back and join us another time. All right, so this being our last Friday that we're meeting together, we get to do a little happy birthday, but first we're gonna do our wrap. Take out your ticket, let's see if you might have the winning ticket. I was assured that my tickets were gonna be added to the bucket, so we'll see.
The second place winner, great pleasure. There is a bill, only bill. The second place. And I need a conspiracy. 35. Come on. Oh, yeah. I think. It's very. He's on us.
Am I drawing or just throwing?
Through the pot and then draw the third place winner. Check your Lido.
What others? 714-699.
You got it?
714-699. 714-699.
And Joel was asking, now here's someone who questioned my honesty in here. That's why I don't work out for you. Reverend, you can say her friend.
714-701.
Joel, no.
He doesn't buy it, Grace said,
No.
661. Thank you. So we actually, don't go too far, Fred. We actually have, oh, keep the bucket handy here. So we wanted to, courtesy of Mr. Governor Mike, we have 2 tickets to the first Bloom Artful Bling and Pleasing Things event at FIA. And this is valid through spring of 2023, which I guess is like now. So it's this weekend. It's this weekend. So Bob, as the first place winner, you have first dibs on the tickets if you are able to use them this weekend. And if you are not able to use them, we will pass them to the second/third prize winner.
What day is it?
It's this weekend, so Saturday and Sunday. You can do it, all right. Yeah, so those who don't want to buy a Powerball ticket. Then that brings us to Thursday, so come on up, Patrick Manswell, and you can regale us with some Rotarian birthday list here.
I forgot my Betty Fred graphic. We have a number of distinguished individuals who had their birthdays in the month of March. And we'll begin on March 1st with Melissa. And on March 9th is partner in crime and table mate Nick Kowalski. On March 12th, Rick Hetherington. On March 15th, Anne Marie Van Dyne. March 16th, Elizabeth Cummings. March 17th, everybody stop. Little appreciation. Yeah, good job. March 18th, Marissa Pierce. March 22nd, Luke Perry. March 23rd, Jerry Mormon. And soon to be March 30th. Okay, everyone sing really loudly so you don't have to hear me. Right? 1, 2,
All right, if you don't have your dollar with you, you can always do it online at the website. We have.
Well done.
All right. So thank you for that. I have to, this always takes me back to my very first last Friday of the month meeting when I was a Rotarian, or maybe was still visiting, and there was happened to be a cake at the Flint Golf Club that day, and I thought that that meant that they had birthday cake every single last Friday. And that was the first and only time that I think that happened. But nice turnout today for the March birthday folks. We are at the time for our speaker presentation, and so we are going to come up and tell us a bit more about our next speaker today.
So keeping with the theme, I think one of the first times I met Jerome, he actually saved my bacon, because I was I think I was still the vice president at Priority Children, and we had our Children's Champion Awards breakfast over at U of M at the Rec Center, and we had the Carmen Ainsworth marching band coming as entertainment, and it was a snow day of epic proportions. So we had no entertainment, no band. And someone, I'm pretty sure it was Linda Moxon, said, "Well, ask Jerome to come up." Who's going to come up and sing to 500, 600 people? Absolutely no prep or accompaniment or anything. And she's like, ask Jerome. And guess who came up and sang? And he knocked it out of the park. So Jerome is fabulous and is a native of Flint, Michigan. Proud graduate of Flint Northwestern High School. He received his Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration from Central Michigan University, go Chips, majoring in Human Resource Management. He's a certified speaker, trainer, and coach with the John C. Maxwell team, has a certificate in brain-based coaching from the Neuro Leadership Institute. Jerome loves Greater Flint and has been afforded many opportunities to impact the lives of his community. He currently serves as a community engagement coordinator at Sloan Museum of Discovery in Long Lake, Ontario. Jerome is one of his favorite quotes, and I love this, by Margaret Mead: "There's no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about." He uses these words to fuel his passion of being a continuous improvement practitioner. So please join me in welcoming my friend Jerome Hill.
Our opinions might not be the same, but there's so many things that are. Hand in hand, we can form a chain that never can be torn apart. Together we stand, divided we fall. So let's build a bridge, tear down the wall. Let us respond, each other's call. But together we stand, but divided we fall. In life there are times we may disagree, but it doesn't mean that I don't care. See, I need you and you need me. Love has made that very clear. But together we stand, divided we fall. So let's build a bridge, tear down the walls, and let us respond to each other's call. But together we stand, divided we fall. Good afternoon, Rotary. Thank you, Amy. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for the chance to be back to Priority Care. Amy told me I can be myself, and so that is definitely who I am. I share my gift every chance I get because it's who I am. I am Jerome Hill, and I serve as the Community Engagement Coordinator and DEI lead at Slow Museum and One Way Planetarium, and I've been there for 3 years, but it seems 3.5, seems like 30. So we've been doing such great things together and such a great marriage. But thank my colleagues for being here today and supporting me. That smile means a lot, Kathy. So what we're going to talk about for a short period of time, we're going to move through it, is the power of voice, the power of oral history, the power of tapping into things that we don't necessarily know. And so when I came, we were at a pivotal point of realizing that our archive did not match our passion for what we wanted to do. The clientele we really wanted, we weren't getting. And so we had to look at it and say, what can we do different? And so in that, we acknowledged the harm, said, you know what, for years we have not done what people have wanted us to do. And so we're going in a different direction. That's for any relationship. And when you cause harm and you realize that you have to acknowledge it, can't move on. If I walk up and slap Kyle, I'm just, he says I'm going down, but if I slapped him 10 years ago, and then I walked up to him for a job, he's gonna remember the slap. He's not gonna remember anything that happened in between because he's still stuck on that because I caused the harm. And so you have to acknowledge the harm in order to move forward. But then in that, you go in a different direction with your behavior. And so one of the things we've been able to do is say to our community, we really do care about you. We're really interested in knowing what you care about and what has happened in your life so that we can highlight it and express it. And so one of the greatest people I've met in my work here is Fred Bashir. He and I, we worked together on the Flint School Board, and he also was a part of our oral history project. And one of the things he said to me in our conversation, he said, Jerome, what you are doing is you're transforming the way people see people. Thank you. You're transforming. And that was like right on the cue. It's always the tool, isn't it? We're transforming the way people see people. And in our work we're focused mostly because of our connection with the Love Black for All Change Network, which is a DEI platform that allows us to go through and find out who is it that we really want to work with. And so what our team decided is we wanted to work with the Black community focused on narrative change because we're definitely big into inclusive narrative change. at Sloan with our new exhibit. How many people in the new history gallery? New Sloan? Great. Our whole purpose was to make sure that space was inclusive, so that we were telling most of our community story. Where before we definitely focused on a upper middle class story, and we wanted to make sure we were getting everyone's perspective. And so, here oral history is it helps round out the story of the past, right? I can give it. We're all about artifacts, and I'm new to the museum world, and so when they would show me an artifact, I'd be like, okay, okay, great, that's great, but what more? What else can we tell about it? And oral history helps kind of put some meat to the bones. Oral history helps us understand how individuals and communities experience the forces of history. We're dealing with a lot of huge topics in Flint. We're talking about segregation, we're talking about fair housing, we're talking about all these things. And how can we do it? I wasn't there. I was not there for a lot of things that happened, but I do know people who were. And so how can I tap into them to find out to share their lived experience? Oral history teaches us what has changed and what has stayed the same. A lot of times it's mindset. And so how do we challenge mindsets through the story and lived experiences of others? Then oral history also preserves for future generations a sound portrait of who we are in the present and what we remember about that. All right. So I'm going to do a quick exercise. Amy told me I have to be myself, and I'm a former classroom teacher, and I'm a full-time professional. And so what I want you to do is I'm going to give everybody 1 minute. I only have a short amount of time. So I'm going to give you a few seconds. We're going to do the first prompt. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about the neighborhood you grew up in. I want you to think of 2 to 3 things about that neighborhood that still ring true for you today and share at your table. However, you have to be accountable to the table because you only have 1 minute. All right? You cannot go further than 1 minute. If you are done at 45 seconds, it's okay. You can move to the next person. It's like tag team. It's like wrestling. Tag team. All right? So everyone think for a couple seconds about the neighborhood you grew up in, and then we're gonna say go. All right? So a few seconds to think. The neighborhood I grew up in. I grew up in North Flint on Winona Street, right in front of a park. I have so many memories I can tell and share. And now you decide who goes first, and then right into it. All right. Ready? All set? You bet? Ready? Go? Let's go. Okay. We got 90 seconds left. 90 seconds. Thank you. Thank you. So, my observation from this room, my observation from this exercise, what happens every time we do this? What happens? You start talking about what you remember about your neighborhood, and you light up. The room was lit up. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was engaged in listening to everyone else's story. Where did you come from? Instantly, we were engaged and intrigued by what you were sharing. Some of us had connections to the neighborhood you were in, or like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Learn something new about the person you've been with for a very long time. Some groups got a chance to go to high school, you know, and Dominique, you know, tried to throw some shade, talk about that other high school on the south end of town. But, you know, it's not about reference. But what I'm saying is, this is how we connect, because dealing with the tough issues that we're dealing with, one of the things you have to always keep in mind is that we're human. And when you can focus on humanity, our own humanity, and that you have a story just like I have a story, your story is as interesting as my story, because it is my story. And when you give me the opportunity to tell my story, how empowering it is, everyone in here set up a little straighter, you know, you got a chance to tell your story, right? Your voice is powerful. And that's what we're doing in community. And so I want to have to talk about this really quick. The truth, racial healing, and transformation. We have definitely joined in with our partners at Community Foundation, and because it's all about getting institutions to work together to make sure that we are having these conversations to talk about the big issues. And it's not just race, we talk about truth, racial healing, it's not race, it's talking about truth. The truth is, we're all healing, what we just happened. These are institutions, all of us bringing our life efforts to this conversation. And this is what we want to do. One of the things I want to talk about is the vision is to improve our capacity as communities, and as a country, to see ourselves in each other, which we just did, so that we can shape a more equitable future with opportunities for every child to thrive, not just the children, but also so that we can thrive. There's a lot that we go through, and when we can focus, and I can see myself in Todd's situation, he can see himself in my situation. It, all the hassles and stuff that we may have, we can get to a point where we can lay that down, right? If Todd is having a bad day, okay, he's just having a bad day today. Now, he doesn't like me, he's just having a bad day today, right? We can get up and pick up the pieces tomorrow. So narrative change and truth telling, I'm gonna kind of move quickly. It's just so important. One of the things that I've been finding out, we've been doing a lot of work with the St. John Student Entertainment School. And we've been listening that story and meeting with individuals, and you can look at narratives that were written about the neighborhood. It doesn't necessarily reflect the lived experience and also artifacts that we have. And so I'll go deeper. So there was narratives talking about the St. John Street neighborhood of being slummed and, run down homes. That may have been the case for some, but we're finding artifacts in text accessory photos of very neat homes and, clean streets. And it's kind of interesting. And then you put the oral history piece on top of it. Well, the oral history is actually siding with the artifact versus the narrative. And so that narrative change is important. You can get people to talk and share, and then you have actual artifact that mirrors with that. That's a very powerful story. And so it's all about us making sure that we're getting to first the truth, and then getting to that narrative change. And so we were able to connect with our partners here, with Community Foundation, U of M Flint, Neighborhood Engagement Hub, and Sloan Longway, and we created the Flint Neighborhood Oral History Project. We were brought together, we had an opportunity to apply for some dollars to do some listening. And the reason we got the money is because we were authentic in our approach. And they did not receive any application that said they were going to take a year to just listen. And that's what we wrote. We're going to take a year to listen to community. We're going to take a year and build a relationship. Instead of doing something to, we want to do it with, right? And doing something with is much more powerful. And so these are our partners, and these are the roles that we each play in this partnership. And it is definitely interesting. And as we're going into the neighborhood and working with Block Club and getting them to talk about who are the pillars on their street, who are the people that live there for. We found one street where there's been people in 3 or 4 homes who live there for 4 or 5 generations. And so it's like, how do we lift those stories? Because people on the outside tell the story of Flint and Genesee County, that's not necessarily true. They come and have one encounter, go one section, and then they make this whole broad thing, but that's not necessarily true. So one of the things I'm very interested in, that we actually go on the ground in community, talking with them, and then lifting their story. These are our shared values. That's just a little bit about it. And then here are some of the successes that we've been able to have. We're working together and really being focused on truth, racial healing, and reconciliation. A lot of things there, but one of the things I'm most excited is that you can actually come to Sloan Museum and you can see the work of community engagement, of us working with our Anishinaabe community, and us taking to them what we thought was a pretty cool narrative, and they say, no, that's not it at all. And just like when we were in high school, and your teacher got the red pen out, they got that red pen out, like, nope, that didn't happen, this didn't happen, this is what actually happened. And then they gave us the power and the authority to speak on their behalf. This is what narrative change is, and getting to truth. I want to share this before I get ready to sit down. We've been working with oral history of St. John Street, and so we put together this compilation. And I thought to myself, I know there are some people interested in seeing it, interested in learning more, but I didn't know how I did it. And so, we're all overachiever day, right? So I put on my desk 20,000 views and just put it there. I thought that would be like, woo, real awesome. Well, today, over
2,000 views of our oral history project, and it's amazing. And we have people calling us all the time trying to understand how we did it. And we did it from being authentic, respecting humanity, and just talking with people. And so as you're doing your dealing, we went to a conference, and the lady shared something. She said, those of us who have the opportunity to make change, make sure you're making it with and not for. And so that's what I would just like to leave with you today. Make sure you're making change with and not for. Thank you so very much.
So you're on the, maybe a question, like, to more about it, what questions do you have? I knew you were gonna have, like, no.
St. John neighborhood, forgive my ignorance. Where is that exactly? The only thing I know about that is that the marker that is being, the city.
Yes, it's something with a long,
Are there houses still there? Or- Give me
Um,
where that is.
most of it was demolished because of urban renewal. The people who live, they call it urban removal. And so it's very interesting, but it's North Flint, just east of the west of the river. Yeah, east of the river, yeah, east of the river there.
And is this project on YouTube?
It is, it's on Small Museums, YouTube.
475.
475, yeah. It went through it.
Trying to recall. The hearing years ago, the library had a listening type of program where they would ask community members to come in and repeat or question. Is that connected with at all with what you've done or would they still do that?
Okay, he was asking about Flint Public Library doing StoryCorps. We have not necessarily connected with what they've done in the past, but we are connecting with some of our roots. We used to do porch stories years ago, so we're connecting some of that work we've done. But I am working with Shayna, the community engagement coordinator there, to come and mirror and work together, collaborate.
So you're talking about this neighborhood, 475 runs through it. I guess there's been, over the years, I've heard lots of stories about how 475 has devastated neighborhoods, vital neighborhoods in the community. Are there stories that you can recall from what you've been learning about that? Does anyone speak to that specifically?
Yes, a lot of it. The second part of the oral history speaks more graphically. So they talk about how it was by design, and they were the residents were told that, hey, this is gonna be the month, it's gonna be coming down the pipe, but don't do anything to your homes for this period of time because we're gonna build new homes. You'll be first to get it. And that did not take place. And so as the narrative was being told, it was because another narrative was being told, more promises were being told of what was going to happen. So it was like saying, okay, you like your neighborhood now? Guess what? Don't do anything for about 7 years. We're gonna come through, build a brand new home, and you get a chance to come and buy that home right where your property was. But that didn't happen. And so once they were displaced and dispersed, the residents say broke up their economic and political power. And so they were used to being in that neighborhood. They could count on one another, the dollar circulated in that neighborhood. And when they dispersed, they lost that sense of camaraderie. Yes.
Well, can you speak in relationship to that event that happened? To white flight of Flint?
Yeah, that's definitely a part of it too. The block busting and all of that, and all these, the red line, all works together. Fair housing, all that is all, it's all there, and it's all was on segregation. And Black people could only be in 2 areas. It was Floral Park, and St. John, and that's the two neighborhoods that were burst and demolished. Yes.
Everyone, talked about the power of oral history to change the narrative. I'm wondering about for the individuals who have the ability to share their history, many of whom, if they were around for St. John's, can recognize that history will then survive them as when they're no longer here. What's the impact of the individuals who know that their history will last now, far beyond what maybe they or even their kids will be here for?
Yeah, the St. John Street has a historical committee, and they meet once a month. And thank you for your question, Kyle. I thought it was a great story until I got a chance to go to one of their meetings and to hear them and to feel the passion in the room about their neighborhood and also what they're able to do is tremendous. And so I invite you one day to come on a Thursday at McCree Theater because it is powerful and they are ecstatic to know that the work that they've been doing for a number of years, decades, is now getting to the point where there's a memorial park and there's monies that they're able to secure to get this memorial park. When you just talk about it, they light up. It's like 30 to 40 of them that come to meetings. And as old as they are and as wise as they are as jovial as we were, but we were just doing our exercise a second ago. And they wanted to be here and want their legacy preserved for generations to come.
Can you talk a little bit more about partnering with the Ashkenazi people and telling the Native story in the wild?
Oh, sure. So we were asked to repatriate some remains that we had in our collection. And so we got a chance we were invited to actually go to that ceremony. I wasn't there before my time, but Todd and the curator of collections, Jeff, my direct supervisor, had an opportunity to do that. And after doing that and being a part of that ceremony, we continued to connect with the Ziegler Women's Center up in Mount Pleasant to build relations. And one of the things I want to talk about is a lot of times we will figure out a way that works best for us. And so the way that worked best for us was email. And so we email, and I get a response. And so when I came on board, I said, well, my grandmother had a saying for all cat lovers, something just that. She said, there's more than one way to skin something, all right? So I said, there's more than one way there's something else we can do. So we start calling and start using every phone number on the list to get this to them. And I told Jeff, I said, if we don't get somebody to call it, he's gonna get in the car and just drive up there. And one day Bill called, he answered the phone and we got a chance to connect. And then we went up to where he was. We went up to the Ziegler Women's Center and we built a connection there. And from that first interaction after the repatriation, they got permission from the chief to work with us, to be able to really give us the true history. And then they invited us to bring professionals. And so on the first day of National Day of Racial Healing that we observed in 2020, we actually got a bus. Community Foundation funded it for us, and we took a bus of professionals up to Ziegler Wing to have that cultural exchange. And then from there on, it just took off. Yes, Ms. Knight.
I just wanted to add to the story. I heard Jim mention white flight. My aunt was a product of having to move because of the expressway coming in. Yeah. She wanted to move to Grand Blanc. But at that time, people who looked like me could not move to Grand Blanc. She was very frugal and saved her money, so she had a lot of cash. She gave her cash to Audrey. She worked with Audrey at AC. And said, go buy that house in Ottawa Hills on the Rustic Ridge Trail. I want that house. Audrey did. They quit playing deed in the back. Eldon Offer, the developer, heard about that. And I'm telling you the story because in my family, we talk about it a lot. Because it affected us. Eldon Offer heard about it. He came to the door, Rustic Ridge Trail. She was the first to integrate there. He said, I want to know how colored people got in my subdivision. I'll pay you 3 times as much for you to leave. And she was a woman of very few words. But she said, you don't get off my porch, I'm gonna do, whatever. Now, the reason why I know this, and Jerry was saying, know it too. Rick and I belong to the Heritage Society of the Blind Association. Back some years ago, we went out on, what's it, Dusty Road, to the Auburn State and went to an event. And so I told my aunt at the time, she's dead now, 4 years ago at 107, very wise. I said, we just want you to wonderful event. She said, where? I told her about it. She said, well, hey, old man Arthur would roll over his grave. He knew my niece was at that estate. But as it turns out, I want to was very experienced. But she was very, very concerned about not being able to stay where she wanted to stay. And then having been displaced, I should say. But then she found a way. Audrey helped her. And now, go out to Ottawa right now.
Thank you for sharing that story, and some of the residents talk about that.
Yeah.
That was the only way they could integrate. Yeah.
Jerome, other than the historical society that you already mentioned, how do you find people? Or how do you know who to ask, or how do you know who to story to put there?
Well, in my bio, I'm a native of Flint, and I'm a community person, and so I just kind of ask around, like who knows who, and they just forthcoming. They want to talk about it. They want to talk. Yeah, people in Flint they want to talk. Trust me. Yeah. Yeah.
Here, like a wedding process, the stories and what happens. Here, story that has more than one version. When people remember things, everyone at this table might remember it slightly different. Just curious how that's going.
So a lot of it was vetted against the artifacts that we have. So let's just talk about the fair housing. We actually have housing covenants in our archive. So the stories that people talk about, just like what Ms. Coney was talking about, we have an artifact that says this was a practice in Flint. We have artifacts of how GM built certain housing for some people and housing for other people. We have those artifacts. So those artifacts help us to really, the oral history helps us, like again, to put meat on the artifacts that we have. And then
just to interpret a little bit what you're saying, Jerome, the artifacts he's referring to are actual paperwork, documents, and letters that spell this out. So we have land contracts that have a clause directly in them that say no African Americans can buy in this neighborhood. We have paperwork from GM saying this was built specifically for a specific group. So we attempt to use things in our archives to kind of basically corroborate the stories that we're hearing.
More Jewish people talk.
Yes, exactly. Well,
yeah, non-white, I think is what it definitely says. Yes.
And that was quite prominent in the East Court Street area as well, which led to the development of new houses across the creek. And from College and Cultural.
I definitely need to interview you, Jen.
So I know Sloan's been doing this work for a long time, and I can't remember when, but it was, an old Sloan pre-renovation, wonderful history of the Fair Housing Act, all the activism around that in Flint. So there's a lot we know, and not everybody knows it, but I mean a lot. Did you come across stories that were sort of hidden stories or things that had been buried or were so not a part of, almost purposely set aside, that would surprise us?
Surprises to me, no, but they weren't surprises to me. But there are a lot of things that we are finding that are good gems for our next project. It's like, wow, okay. So one of them is even talking about University Estates. So we're going to dive deeper into University Estates because that was an actual property that was dispersed and demolished because of urban renewal. That then, new homes were put there. But it has a twist because has a suburban twist in the city. And so I had HOAs and all of that, so it's really kind of interesting to see what were people going for. And so it was like trying to bring the suburb to the city and what was some of the difficulties in doing that. So that's one of our next projects.
Please join me in thanking Jerome again. So I want to again say thank you, Jerome, donation made in your honor for ending polio. So thank you for that. And I appreciate the stories at the table and Lynetta, you were sharing your story. And just one of the things that is striking for me is that it's sharing my memory of the neighborhood I grew up in. I have a very particular lens and experience of that. And one of the lenses that maybe was part of my verbalization or my recollections that certainly shaped that experience. Because I lived in a neighborhood that was 99% white. And it's not because it just happened to be that way, but because of the policies that we shaped opportunities for some and not others. So thank you for giving a platform to reflect on all of that. Thank you also for everybody that had a hand in today's meeting. So Amy for a speaker introduction and also helping out with the registration table today. Bobby for your inspirational message. Lauren Coney, L Coney, number 2. There's a little confusion in the sign up. It's awesome to have so many L Coney's that we love now. Anne Marie and Lynetta for coordinating and the setup and takedown. And Fred, of course, for the 50/50 and Patrick for the birthday. The reminder, next Thursday, we are going to be having our alternate meeting date instead of our fifth Friday. If that can get market tap at 5 p.m. If you can stop by earlier at Mott College to celebrate Lenore's birthday, then please do so as well. In the meantime, be well. Remember to go forth and imagine Rotary, what it means for you, your community, and your world. With that, we are adjourned.